"13 more imported cases of COVID-19, all involving returnees from Pakistan." 4 more types of entertainment venues reopen for business. And Donald Trump to announce later today his response to Beijing's national security legislation for Hong Kong.
Good evening and welcome. 13 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the city, all imported.
The cases have brought Hong Kong's tally to 1,079. Kana Chu with more details.
The 13 new COVID-19 patients are all returnees from Pakistan. They came back to Hong Kong by way of Doha on board flight QR818 yesterday. Aged 2 to 46, the group includes 4 females and 9 males.
There are around more than 1,100 Pakistan returnees to Hong Kong recently, and we have recorded 33 cases among them. So the percentage is around 3%, which is relatively high. All these Pakistan returnees to Hong Kong have been put under quarantine in Zhongyang Estate.
The Center for Health Protection anticipates more imported cases, but deems them relatively innocuous as long as they do not spread in the community. This morning, medical staff of the Alice Ho Mil Ling Nethersole Hospital were also alerted of an 18-minute stoppage of its negative pressure system. Throughout the course of the event, the hospital's negative pressure wards remained closed, individually accommodating a tuberculosis patient and a suspected carrier of the disease. That's on top of a third person with a pending coronavirus test result, which later came back negative. The hospital authority said infection risks associated with the incident are low, but vowed to prevent similar incidents from happening again.
We have already communicated with the EMSD department to seriously look into the system. There are some degenerated small parts, and we have replaced the degenerated small parts already. And besides, annually we will have complete or major investigation or review of the ventilation system.
Kana Chu, TVB News.
More entertainment venues resumed operations today as the government continues to relax coronavirus restrictions. Some of the affected businesses slammed the government anti-epidemic fund as insufficient. Pinky Wong has more.
The last entertainment businesses that have been required to close down because of the coronavirus outbreak finally opened their doors again. The disinfection process in this party room in Kwun Tong is being stepped up. This representative said 70% of party venues had to shut or sell their businesses because of the close-down order.
We have to close down on April and May. Although we have no income, we still have to pay the rent and other expenditure. So I think this is the biggest challenge. I think the business can be recovered to around 30 to 50% because of the economic situation and the spending power of the Hong Kong people.
Other venues that are resuming operations include bathhouses, nightclubs, and karaoke parlors. Earlier, there was a cluster of COVID-19 patients that linked to a karaoke parlor. At this karaoke lounge, customers are required to fill in a health declaration form as well as temperature checks and hand sanitizing. A safety pack is also provided with mask holders, identification stickers for cups, and collar bands and covers for microphones so patrons don't mix up their items. Carol Lau, publicity director at this karaoke parlor, slammed the government subsidy as insufficient. She said the subsidy only provided $50,000, but the rent for one branch alone is more than $1 million a month, and they still have to pay salaries.
A room like this can usually hold up to 30 customers with a minimum charge of almost $14,000. But because of social distancing measures, only 8 people are allowed to be in this 350-foot room. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
Well, curbs due to the COVID-19 outbreak are set to be eased further in Tokyo beginning Monday. Schools, gyms, and theaters are among the facilities that will be allowed to open in a phased relaxation process. Japan lifted its state of emergency for Tokyo this week following a drop in daily infection. Starting from Monday, the UK will allow outdoor gatherings of 6 people and more students can return to school. But Prime Minister Boris Johnson is stressing people must remain 2 meters apart.
Amid calls to fire his top advisor for breaking lockdown rules, he said the issue was now closed, as police say they will not take any action. Leslie Tang has more.
The UK is further lifting virus lockdown restrictions, with groups of 6 being allowed to gather outdoors starting Monday.
What you certainly can imagine is that there could be meetings of families in a garden. You could even have a barbecue, provided you did it in a socially distanced way, provided everybody washes their hands, provided everybody exercises common sense.
The Prime Minister said people must still stay 2 meters apart. More students can also return to school in staggered groups. But overshadowing calls of social responsibility is the ongoing controversy surrounding his top aide, Dominic Cummings. Cummings broke lockdown rules in March, driving to his parents' farmhouse to ensure he had childcare amid the pandemic. He and his family also drove to beauty spot Barnard Castle. Boris Johnson intervened twice at a press briefing when the media tried to ask the government's chief scientific and medical advisors if Cummings set a bad example for the public. The police said he may have made a minor breach of lockdown rules, but no retrospective action will be taken. More than 14,000 people in the UK have been fined for breaking the ban on non-essential travel. Critics say Johnson's handling of the incident has weakened his leadership.
Is this going to make it less likely that other people will comply with the rules? And if the answer to that is yes, then I, as Prime Minister, would have got rid of him.
Meanwhile, France is reopening restaurants, bars, and cafes starting next week. City parks will also reopen, but gatherings cannot consist of more than 10 people. Leslie Tang, TVB News.
Well, the White House is taking the unusual step of deciding not to release any updated economic forecast as planned this year. The decision comes amid growing signs of the administration's anxiety about the pandemic's economic toll in an election year. Official figures show the U.S. economy shrank at a faster than expected annual rate of 5% during the first quarter. At least 2.1 million Americans lost their jobs last week, meaning an astonishing 41 million Americans have filed for unemployment benefits since shutdowns began in mid-March. U.S. President Donald Trump argues the economy will rebound later this year or in 2021, and that voters should give him another term in office to oversee the expansion.
U.S. President Donald Trump is due to announce later today his response to the advancement of national security legislation for Hong Kong.
While fears grow that the legislation could erode the city's freedoms, Trump has vowed a tough U.S. response that could include targeted sanctions, new tariffs, and further restrictions on Chinese companies. As U.S. ties with Beijing continue to sour, it is not clear if Trump is prepared to take what analysts have called the nuclear option, ending the special economic status Washington confers on Hong Kong.
We'll be announcing what we're doing tomorrow with respect to China, and we are not happy with China.
Under congressional legislation Trump signed last year, it now falls to him to decide to end some, all, or none of the U.S. economic privileges Hong Kong enjoys.
It's a brazen move, and Hong Kong is so much part of the vitality of trade and commerce that goes into mainland China. You would think that they would want that vitality to continue, but President Xi is a very oppressive tyrant, as you know.
Administration officials say Trump has been considering an unrelated proposal to revoke the visas of Chinese students affiliated with educational institutions in China that are linked to the People's Liberation Army or Chinese intelligence services. Trump's actions may be tempered by concern for the more than 1,300 U.S. companies that have offices in Hong Kong and provide about 100,000 jobs. Beijing said it will take any necessary countermeasures if the U.S. insists on interfering in Beijing's internal affairs. The Hong Kong government warned the changes to the city's special status could backfire on the U.S. economy. In a joint statement, the United Kingdom, the U.S., Australia, and Canada said the security law would curtail the Hong Kong people's liberties and, in doing so, dramatically erode Hong Kong's autonomy. Britain is considering changing the status of British national overseas passport holders.
If China continues down this path and implements this national security legislation, we will change that status and we will remove that 6-month limit and allow those BNO passport holders to come to the UK and to apply to work and study for extendable periods of 12 months, and that would itself provide a pathway to future citizenship.
Hong Kong's last British governor highlighted what he called China's continuing bullying behavior, adding the law might allow the Ministry of State Security to operate in Hong Kong.
It's got a long reputation for coercion and torture, and it's not going to be in Hong Kong if it does go to Hong Kong in order to sell dim sum.
Today, in an open letter to Hong Kong people, Chief Executive Carrie Lam called for public understanding of the constitutional necessity for national security legislation. She also appealed for public support for the law. Jackie Lin has more.
In the front page open letter published on multiple local newspapers, Chief Executive Carrie Lam continued the refrain of persuasion. She says the central government is fulfilling its rights and obligations to legislate such a law out of care and love towards Hong Kong. She maintains the law targets only a soupçon of criminal activities, and people's fundamental rights and freedoms will not be hampered. Similar sentiments were echoed by local National People's Congress delegates.
It's a reinstatement of the firm holding of one country, two system, and the high autonomy of Hong Kong.
NPC Standing Committee member Tam Yu Chung says concerned citizens could submit their opinions on the NPC website, all the while citing Beijing's steely determination to impose the law on the SAR. Quoting the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, whom they met last night, Tam assured people they won't be made guilty by words. Pan-Democrats are unconvinced.
That is just ridiculous. Any such assurances do not give Hong Kong people any confidence. We don't know what the text of the legislation is. It's possible that one country, two system, and the freedom enjoyed by the Hong Kong people will be completely taken away by this law.
Kwok also worries about the ambiguous definitions of keywords like foreign interference that could facilitate political persecution. Responding to overseas reactions, the city's commerce chief slammed U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's allegations over Hong Kong's diminished autonomy as untenable. He warned of bilateral damage if Hong Kong is stripped of its special trading status.
It is hypocritical to say that, well, on the one hand, you stand by or support the people of Hong Kong, but what the U.S. government is trying to do would intend to harm Hong Kong's interests. It is also self-kidding to say that, well, this would only harm sort of a one side of the equation.
Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Police Commissioner Chris Tang said the proposed national security legislation for the SAR will strengthen investor confidence. Tang made the comment in an interview with state broadcaster CCTV. He also said the new law will help combat Hong Kong independence forces. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Security in Beijing has vowed to guide and support the SAR police to stop violence and restore order in the city. The ministry will also help crack down on subversive sabotage by hostile forces and safeguard national political security.
Still ahead on tonight's news. The LegCo Finance Committee passes a $5.4 billion bailout package for Ocean Park. And a 3-month jail sentence for an Australian woman who admitted to hurling a brick at police from a footbridge last November. An Australian court rules the Queen's letters about the 1975 dismissal of Gal Whitlam as Prime Minister can be made public.
Welcome back. A $5.4 billion bailout package for Ocean Park was passed by the LegCo Finance Committee this afternoon.
But many lawmakers remain unconvinced about the plan until the last minute, given the theme park's poor track record of managing project costs and the absence of solid business plans. Here's Haley Joe.
32 for, 16 against, no abstention. The motion is endorsed.
After 15 hours of debate, legislators agreed to bail out Ocean Park. The $5.4 billion package would allow the theme park to maintain its operation for a year, pay back its loans, and complete the Taishu 1 development project.
It's something from 2013. Back then, the Commission for Tourism was saying this about the Taishu 1 project. There would be a cap at $2.29 billion, even if the project costs exceed the funding granted. The government will not offer additional financial support to the Ocean Park. That's what happened. That's for the remaining costs. Say I have $500. I spend $400. I ask you for another $100. That's the remaining cost. But I want to ask you, are you asking for extra money? We don't know how much it will cost for the remaining works. We want to avoid liquidation.
This was kind of problem lawmakers had about this bailout plan, which some called a bottomless pit.
How do you manage your finances? In January this year, you told us that you have a grand plan and you would like to borrow even more, $10.6 billion.
Even some pro-government lawmakers didn't get behind it.
I've been in business for 30 plus years. Based on what the Ocean Park has today, I don't think its assets can repay, it's not even enough for 10% of the loan. We'll try to cut costs and explore new sources of revenue, say something about the hotels or flexible use of the land nearby.
The government stressed saving Ocean Park is saving 2,000 jobs, more than 7,000 animals, a major tourism attraction, and Hong Kongers' collective memory. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
An Australian woman has been sentenced to 3 months in jail for an attempt to assault police officers last November. The 32-year-old arrived at the Eastern Magistracy this morning for her sentencing. The court heard she hurled a brick from a footbridge at police who were dispersing protesters near Exchange Square in Central on November 12th last year. The woman had earlier pleaded guilty to 1 count of attempted assault on police officers in execution of duty.
Back in the U.S., violent protests over the death of a black man who died in police custody are continuing to rock the U.S. city of Minneapolis. Enraged protesters torched the police station in the district where he died. The overnight chaos was the most damaging yet, as angry crowds looted stores, set fires, and left a path of destruction. One man was found fatally shot near a pawn shop. Minnesota's governor has called in the National Guard to help deal with the crisis. A viral video shows the victim, George Floyd, pinned to the ground, while a white police officer who kneels on his neck continues to do so, despite Floyd saying he cannot breathe. No criminal charges have been made.
Twitter has slapped another warning on a tweet by U.S. President Donald Trump, saying it violated the platform's rules about glorifying violence. In reference to the outbreak of riots in Minneapolis, Trump tweeted, "Any difficulty and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts." This comes as Trump has lashed out at Twitter for stamping fact checks to 2 others of his tweets. He has escalated his war against social media companies by signing an executive order challenging liability protection that has shielded internet companies.
Australia's highest court has ruled to make public letters between Queen Elizabeth II and her representative that would reveal what knowledge she had, if any, of the dismissal of an Australian government in 1975. The High Court's 6-1 majority decision in historian Jenny Hawking's appeal overturned lower court rulings. The ruling means that more than 200 letters between the Queen and Australian Governor-General Sir John Kerr before he dismissed Prime Minister Gough Whitlam's government will be made public. The only ever dismissal of an elected Australian government on the authority of a British monarch triggered a political crisis that spurred many to call for Australia to sever its constitutional ties with Britain. Suspicions of a U.S. Central Intelligence Agency conspiracy also persist. And that is the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.